An interesting show on tonight, narrated by Robert Redford. He did a movie, All the President's Man, starred in it with him and Dustin Hoffman, and it was a two-hour episode that kind of went back and explored the movie, but explored all the interesting facts that led up to them writing the book and him producing it and making the show, which is very interesting because it was 40 years ago. So back in '73 is when the Watergate thing came out, and all the things that unfolded that led up to the impeachment of the president, and very, very interesting how they fit. As Gordon and I were looking at it, that is 40 years ago. There's a lot of now generation that doesn't really know all that much about it. I remember I would have been 11, and it was on the TV a lot, the trials and stuff. And I don't remember it. I don't come from a very political family, so it wasn't on. I don't remember seeing any of it. I do remember the Nixon presidency. One of the magazines that I read a lot was Mad Magazine, and they would spoof him. I remember him being on the cover and them spoofing him from time to time. I remember after he left that Ford. I remember the Ford presidency because he was just there was so much about it. I mean, he wasn't there for very long, but I remember Saturday Night Live would do some skits. It seemed like he was always tripping and fumbling and kind of a bumble president. Talk that way about our presidents, but that's how I remember him growing up. But I was quite young, so I didn't really understand politics and what all went on during the Nixon administration and thereafter. I remember when Carter was president, that he was just a smiling fellow all the time. And I remember right before, toward the end, still in school, that when they had that election, it must have been the 80 election for Reagan, Carter went out. And I remember going around, and there was one of the radio stations gave I think it was a nickel. Was it nickel? Nickel or quarter? I think it was a quarter. Quarter per political sign that you could bring in. It had to be a nickel because it wasn't very much. Because you could gather a lot of them. I remember a friend and I took out of school, and one of the reasons the next day he said, well, he was at school, said, well, we was going around picking up the political signs, which we were, but we just hit a corner, and they'd just be piled up corner to corner, and we packed the back seat and the trunk full, and took them in and cashed them in and made some money. But I remember not seeing not one Carter sign. And I mentioned that to Gordon after I moved up, and he said, well, that was Oklahoma. Oklahoma's pretty much of a red state, and you just wouldn't have seen any advertisements for Carter since he was a Democrat. But politics is a funny bird. They say there's a couple of things you don't talk about conversations, and that's politics and religion, because usually you're going to offend somebody or get into it with them. But I know Gordon was always very outspoken. One of the guys we knew, what was his name? Bert, Pastor Bert. He did a painting on the wall over there, and he was very, very much of a Republican, and being a pastor, had his views and stuff. and him and Gordon would definitely sit down and go around and around, and even though we couldn't convert one person from the other, they both gained each other's respect very where you come to understand that you can see the other person's point of view, but you don't not going to subscribe to it, but you respect the person for standing up for their beliefs and stuff. And Gordon and him bonded. We did a lot of computer work for him, and he helped us out on a couple situations. So he was a good guy. He helped Judy out a few times, and him and Judy would go back a ways. And but he was a character. But yep, 40 years ago, that was just trying to remember. I would have been 11, but just to me, my mind and my thoughts were everywhere but politics and knowing what was going on. But it was interesting to see that, because they had both the reporters, the Woodward guy and the Bernstein character talked a lot about what they went through, and then the two actors that portrayed them discussed on how they represented them, and it just went from start all the way to the finish. And it was interesting to see, like I said, the facts and what happened and how it unfolded bit by bit, and finally came out, and eventually that was one of our presidents that we had to. The people stood up and said, "You have to leave," and he did. I'll leave you with a song from '73. This is, you'd come on here, Roberta Flack, "Killing Me Softly." I do remember the song. It's a very good song. I think it made it up to number 8 shown on the charts here, but very, very popular. And I really like pop music. Pop music goes deeply, same as with rock and roll. But April 21st, 2013.